You have found Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. Downloadable audio episodes can be found in the podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. We are locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. Today, we're welcoming / preparing to learn from Michelle Kop, the founder of Level 28 Media. So, Michelle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks, James, for inviting me onto your podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. So tell me, Level 28, let's just start with the name. What is that?
So Level 28, it actually came kind of randomly. It took a really long time to figure out the name of my business. We didn't want, and when I say we, I'm talking about me and my husband, because I started this business as a freelancer and my husband was like my silent cheerleader in the background. And we didn't want to pick like a generic agency name. So I actually come from an agency background. I did marketing, advertising for a good 7 to 8 years. Once I had left the corporate world, I decided to go do freelance. And one of my friends was like, "What's the name of your company?" And I was like, "Well, Michelle Kop Consulting." And he's like, "No, you can't be using that name. It's
Smart friend.
good."
Very smart friend.
He was like, "You can't be using that name. You have to use a different name." So then I went to my husband and I was like, "Okay, well, what should we go with?" There's so many like cheesy names like out there when it comes to marketing agencies, like ClickUp Agency, Improve Performance Agency, like some really cheesy ones. We didn't want to do that. We wanted something meaningful. So as you were driving around, we're trying to look for inspiration anywhere and everywhere. And we're driving around on the freeway. We're looking at specific words to see if we can get anything triggering that relates to who I am. And then one day we actually went to a shopping mall. And as we were going up the parking structure, I saw the word level 1. And I was like, "Oh, how about Level 24 Media?" And 24 is actually, it came from because I was born on the 24th of December. So like it relates to me.
All right.
And I was like, okay, I love it. And my husband's like, "That's a perfect name." We took like 2 months to try to figure it out. Went on GoDaddy, bought the domain immediately. And then the next day I realized that is 24 like a bad luck number? Because I come from like my background is Chinese and 4 is a bad luck number. It means death.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I called my mom and I was like, "Oh, well, is 24 a bad number? I don't want to put a bad omen on my business. Like I'm going to be filing paperwork. I need a good name, but I don't know about 24. And she was like, "Yeah, 24, when you translate it means easy death. So that's not a good name for a business." Yeah. So instead of 24, it's 28. And we change it to 28 because it's like a secret meaning. So 28 in Chinese actually means easy prosperity. So so that's what I wanted it to mean. But on top of that, 28, I realized was like a launching pad number for me. Because when I turned 28, that's when I started freelancing. That's when I started working for big companies and getting promotions. And that was also the year when I was 28 when I got engaged. So that was just like being 28. It just threw me back to, a really positive, great time in my life. And that's what I wanted to incorporate into my business. So the secret meaning is easy prosperity. But what I tell clients is 28. It's a very meaningful number to me. So that's in a nutshell, where it came from.
All right. That is so interesting that the numbers have that meaning and all that jazz. I had no idea that 24 was easy death. I'll have to be very careful using that number again.
Yeah.
But it's funny. I don't know if there's any easy prosperity. Maybe a little bit. We like at least fun prosperity, right? Tell us, I guess, what is Level 28 Media?
Level 28 Media is a pay-per-click lead generation marketing agency. So what I specialize in is really paid search or Google ads. So I'm sure you've probably heard of like SEO, ranking on the search engines when someone's searching on Google, and that's ranking organically. But what I do is I help clients appear on Google, but on the paid results. So you do need an advertising budget to appear, and to appear higher, of course, you're going to have to be willing to, pay a higher fee. every time someone searches, there's an auction that takes place. And then with that, then Google will then serve ads. And that's what I do. I manage ads for clients through Google Ads, and essentially generate leads for them. So I work with a lot of local businesses as well as B2B. My background is actually in advertising. So I used to do this for Toyota, AMPM Arco, Sage Accounting Software, a lot of these big brands when I was in corporate. But then I left and wanted to just focus on small business. I felt a lot more compelled and more excited to work on small businesses because there's like less red tape. And it's more exciting too, because like you can watch your small business clients grow versus when you're already working for like a big company, you can't really see the impact that you're making because it's just like you're a tiny needle in the haystack. I don't know if you can relate. I'm sure you probably can. But, then started working with these small businesses and seeing the impact. It felt, there's a sense of fulfillment that I'd never felt before when I started working with these small businesses. So that's essentially what I do. I work with lawyers, doctors, dentists, software businesses, anything you name it, in terms of like lead generation. Typically more like higher ticket services though.
All right. I imagine so that they have the margin both to spend on ads as well as the I guess the wherewithal to know to do that. It's interesting because I have call answering service and we target a lot of clients that I would consider to be higher ticket per transaction. But that's purely because it has to be for the phone call to be worth paying the client paying to have it answered. I always joke like you may have a hot dog stand or whatever. We're probably not a good fit for you, even though somebody may call your hot dog stand. You're selling your hot dogs for a couple bucks. It's not going to be worth it. So
exactly.
It's interesting. I started a flower business, online flower ordering. And I went to pay for ads for that. And holy cow, talk about competition, crazy competition that I would have never guessed from a bidding standpoint for the ads. So per click, we're looking at $40, $50. And our margin, because from what I could tell, or the people that I work with told me, was that these are people that were bidding for wedding flowers and funeral arrangements and stuff where it's hundreds or thousands of dollars. And I was trying to get people to spend 50 or $100 on flowers. So the margin that we had, like we didn't have 50% margin to toss to just acquiring the customer or even get a click to hopefully get that customer.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I mentioned high margin, because at the same time, you need to allow for room for the advertising budget and the room for the person to pay to like actually manage it. So that's why I tend to go for the higher ticket ones where customer lifetime value is like at least like in the thousands, where we know it's going to be easier to recoup and see a higher return on investment. And therefore the longevity is going to be there in terms of recurring revenue for my business, but then also, the clients just going to stay with me for a longer period of time and everyone's happy overall.
Yeah. So with SEO, there's a lot of people that can just hang their shingle out and they're like, hey, I'm an SEO expert. How do you differentiate yourself from the millions, thousands of people out there that are saying, hey, we're SEO experts?
Yeah. So just in general, like in this industry, there's just so much snake oil with SEO, with pay-per-click advertising, which is what I really specialize in. There's just so many people that claim that they can get you on the page one of Google or the top of page one, like by tomorrow. But a lot of it is just a bunch of lies. Right. And then they're using a lot of like bad tactics that are against like Google's policies. And eventually you just get shut down. So I think really what it comes down to is just like setting the right expectations with clients. I'm very upfront about how there's no such thing as a guarantee. I know that's really hard to swallow when you're making a big investment, right? If I'm asking you for 2, 3, even 5,000 for a small business, that's a lot of money to be, investing into ads. And it's, they see it as an investment, maybe a gamble, but then at the same time, it's like, you also need to understand that that's the only way that you can really test things out to see, is this even a viable channel? Just like what you do with the flowers, at least, with your flower business, you tried it out, you saw that it wasn't producing a return on investment, you shut it off and that's it. But I think the key is for me, and what I say that really differentiates me, is I'm very straightforward. If I don't feel like I can really deliver for you, I'm not going to even put out a proposal. I just don't want to waste your time at the end of the day. I know there's so many companies, there's like looking for volume, looking for revenue, but at the same time, like the honesty and integrity is what's really lacking in this industry. So I think the key is really just being transparent about how there's no guarantee, but also setting expectations, like what we can learn from this time period, how long it's going to take to actually start seeing results, and what type of potential results we can expect. So typically I like to go for clients that I already have worked in their industry. So it's easier for me to know, like, hey, I know that it's worked in this industry, in this geography. So let's try to duplicate the success in another area. So then we're not going to run into a blip like, oh, this random Rubik's Cube business is, not generating results, after like 3 months. And then I felt bad that I charged them, but I did my job. So like, I try to avoid that by working with like, a subset of like verticals that I know like there is demand for, because with SEO, with pay-per-click, and just search in general, it's really challenging because you can't control as the person managing the ads who's searching and when they're searching. It's based off of search demand and search behavior. So honestly, it's an amazing thing because you can see how people behave. It's kind of like a silent like focus group, so you could see how people behave, but at the same time, there's only so much you can control. Even if you're the best pay-per-click Google Ads marketer in the world, it's not you set up a campaign for like a random business that doesn't have any search volume, you're wasting your time. So I think what it just comes down to is integrity and transparency with clients, and just having like a very clear roadmap of what you're going to work on. I think like the strategy is going to be important. I think it's really easy if you're like looking for someone to manage your ads to go look and just compare based off of pricing, but we're not buying flowers here. We're actually looking for, someone that's going to be that strategic guide that's going to take you from point A to point Z or wherever you need to go with the least amount of friction. And a lot of companies, and I'm not sure if you've experienced this yourself, but a lot of companies, they have to go through multiple agencies, freelancers, or partners in order to find the right fit. It's frustrating because, people are, lazy, they don't respond, or they just can't get results. And, to that end, there's only so much you can do if you can't get results. So then you just have to part ways and move on.
Yeah, I'm working with a guy now who's doing well-ish. I don't know. He's doing okay, but I don't know. I don't have much to compare him to that's great. I have plenty of other agency that I've hired that did not do well.
Right.
The most recent one before this one, I signed up with a guy that I knew. Everything was cool, signing up, the sales process, all that jazz, until I found out that he was outsourcing it.
Oh, no.
And so we ended up getting the craziest calls. We would get calls. So it was marketing for call answering service.
Okay.
So we would get calls for people looking for customer service for whatever they had a problem with. So we would get people saying,
okay,
hey, my mattress is broken. And we're like, what?
Oh my gosh. Or is this Amazon customer service?
Yes. So, oh my gosh. So we would get these callers, and I don't know what, because you wonder, like, the ad didn't say anything about that, but I guess maybe people are just dumb. So they thought, hey, it's customer service. It must be customer service for me specifically, whatever.
Yeah. Based off of what you're describing to me, it's the keyword strategy. He's going after the wrong keywords.
Oh my God. So when we looked into that, because I'm like, how can it be this bad? Because it was a light switch. Those ads went on. We had tons of calls in. So we're like, yay, ads are working. And then I go to the crew.
Calls.
Oh my gosh. I felt so bad for my crew because they're taking these calls and people are pissed about just weird stuff, right? Like my check bounced. We had a ton of mattress calls, pool calls, stuff man. So my crew was like, dude, shut it off. I don't know what is going on, but we look at the ads and it was super vague, extremely vague. And it cost us thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
So we're paying for junk.
Yeah,
Almost
and that's
literally.
the biggest frustration that I hear when I speak with small business owners that have hired agencies and freelancers before me. They're just like, I just got burned. I just spent thousands and thousands of dollars. What makes you different? And they come
Right.
to me with a very like stern tone, and it's like, oh well, you're the fourth person I'm hiring for this. I hope fourth time's the charm. But what I say is, hey, like, here's my approach. If you like it, then great. If not, then I'm not going to force you to work with me. But this is what I would do differently compared to what your previous agency was doing differently. I'm not just going to give you a quote and say, oh, I manage keywords, I write ads. No, that's not enough. Like, especially like for me being like a premium, person in a premium company in the industry, if I'm trying to position myself as that, I need to be able to put out, value. That's not just like, oh, this is what I'm going to do, but this is your goal and this is how I'm going to try to help you get there. But still also caveat that there's no guarantee either, that
Right.
there's going to be a learning curve. I could be an expert in Google Ads, pay-per-click advertising, but for your industry, it might take some time. There's a learning period and whatnot. So, if you didn't hear that before from your previous, whoever you hired for like as an agency, and then all of a sudden you're getting all these random phone calls, then you start really questioning like their integrity. And you also start questioning, was this even a good hire? Because they don't even understand my business.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like the fact that, you hired someone to run ads for you and you're getting all these random calls, like that type of thing. I'm surprised that that's not even the first thing that came to their mind. Like, oh, we could be attracting Amazon customer support or Mattress Firm customer support. Let's try to mitigate that from the beginning. So that just tells me that whoever's managing it
Mm-hmm.
either is very junior, right? So like they're outsourcing it to a junior team.
Mm-hmm.
But on top of that, there's no strategy. It's like, okay, let's just pick a few keywords and then let's just run it and like spray and pray that this is going to
Right.
work.
Yeah, it was definitely a shotgun approach. And it was one of those where I have too much going on to want to learn that whole aspect, which is
Right.
the same reason anybody outsources anything. That I want the time, you take the money, we'll just move on with their lives. I feel like he was a smart person. He just, I don't know, maybe we were smaller fish compared to some of his bigger stuff, so he just outsourced it.
Yeah. And what I'll also say is it takes someone with a lot of integrity too to own up to like, if a campaign's not working. I think that that's a really hard conversation to have as a service provider, because you end up having to tell a client like, hey, I gave it my all and we tried so many strategies, but I really don't think that this is the right fit for you. It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to have some conversations like that too in the past. And it really hurts in the heart to have to say that,
Mm-hmm.
because, it hurts from a revenue perspective, because you're like, well, I'm not adding value and therefore my revenue is going to be cut. But at the same time, when you're looking at it from an integrity standpoint, it's like, okay, well, we gave it a shot. The client is not mad that it didn't work, but I just need to be very frank that this is just not the right channel. But then instead of just cutting them off, say, why don't you try this instead? Like maybe paid social ads. That's not my area of expertise. Maybe SEO might be a better long-term play for you. Maybe podcasting. So I think that, having that courage to like own up to it, a lot of agencies are not going to do that because they're after the
Right.
volume game. A lot of freelancers aren't going to do that because they're also after the revenue too. But it takes, someone with a lot of integrity to have to be like, okay, we gave it a fair shot. It's been 90 days. And I think that this is not the right avenue for you. And we
Yeah,
need to
that's fair. Yeah,
Yeah.
I told this most recent guy, I said, if you can get this to work, I am happy to throw money at you. Happy to. I would love that to be like one of those churning things where you turn $1,000 into $10,000. If the marketing works, that's what you can do. So it's one of
Right.
those like, please let me throw money at you. But if you turn $1,000 into zero, then I'm probably not going to throw some cash at you.
Exactly.
Not for long, anyways. Tell me, when somebody comes to you, what are some of the mistakes or the things that you see that they have done before that you're just like, oh boy, I understand that you did that because a lot of people do that, but it's just a big no-no. Some of the bad things that you see people have done.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like If we're looking at it from a 10,000-foot view, we're not even looking at like the ad account and like getting technical. I would say the number one issue that I find with clients is they're not even ready to run ads because they don't have operations. They don't even have their operations dialed in. They don't even have someone to answer the phone call. They need your team.
Amen to that, right?
They need your team to answer the phone calls. And with working with a lot of like solopreneurs, it can be really challenging. These are very, successful solopreneurs that, they're making a good amount of money. They want to advertise, but then they don't have the resources to answer the phone. So why are we spending $5,000 to $10,000 a month when you can't even answer the phone? And I'm listening because I have a call tracking system. I can listen to every single phone call that comes in, and it's like, went to voicemail. And then a part of me is like, feels awkward to have to say, hey, like, you need to get this thing dialed in or else it's just not going to work. And then at the end of the day, like, you're going to end up getting rid of me too, because you're not seeing a return on investment because you're not answering the phones. So I think that that's the number one thing, is just not following up on leads. Number one is not following up on leads. And then on top of that too, is not following up on leads in a timely manner. So speed to lead is so critical when you're doing lead generation. If you don't answer the phone or you don't follow up with that lead, they're going to move on to the next person in line on Google.
Yeah, we've had clients that have used us that had ads where people filled out a form. And I think we had like 4 minutes or something like that where we had to follow up with a phone call. So the people knew that we were going to call them, but there was no dilly-dally. You had to be on that thing, because if you didn't, people forget. They're just shifting gears, whatever is going on in their life.
Yeah.
It's crazy when somebody's ready to buy, man. You got to pounce on that.
Exactly. I have a client. I'm not going to say who it is because they might be listening eventually, but
hopefully, right?
Hopefully. But yeah, I mean, they hire, straight out of college, straight out of college graduates, nothing wrong with that. But then they don't train them on how to actually be like a salesperson, right? Or how to like close and stuff like that. It's just like, they just train them on how to answer questions. So that's more of a customer service rep's job. But then at the end of the day, if you really want the sales, you need a trained salesperson, a sales, SDR, or someone that knows how to answer that call and convert it into an actual sale, not just a customer service rep. A customer service rep, they might be able to help with some basic things, and it's kind of the luck of the draw. Like, some of them might be good, some of them might not be good. But if they're not working on commission and there's no incentive, then you're probably not going to see much of a difference in terms of, like improvement in your ads. So that's typically the type of thing that I see, like in terms of like a big mistake. But a lot of times, like we don't uncover it until we start actually running ads. And then we start seeing that the client's not answering the phone or that their team's not answering the phone. Because actually, believe it or not, when I'm talking to clients, I'll ask them, what's your close rate? And they'll be very confident, like, oh, my close rate's like, I close every 9 out of 10 leads or that come in. But then I just take it with a grain of salt, because maybe they're only thinking about referrals or the easy leads. But when we're talking about inbound traffic from Google, it can be fickle. People are not going to be as loyal to you because they don't really know your brand. So, client says 90% conversion. I actually bring that down closer to like 20% conversion.
Oh, wow. Okay.
2 out of 10. Yeah. So that, like, if I'm doing some forecasts, it's in that range.
All right.
So it's a pretty lower conversion rate, but I always try to be really conservative too. Like, I would rather be conservative than assume that the client's right, that it's a 9 out of 10 conversion, but typically it's not the case. And then what happens is, once we start running the ads and then all the curtains are drawn back, then we start seeing like, hey, your front desk person went out for a break and they didn't answer, or, oh, your voicemail system is all backed up and the customer couldn't leave a voicemail. And then it starts, having this like negative effect. And then the challenge with that is then the client doesn't know how to fix these operations problems. So then they end up having to stop services because they don't know how to fix the operations issues, or they don't have a good sales team.
Fair. Totally fair. I can tell you from our business. I mean, we work with a lot of small businesses that are sub 20, even most of them are sub 10 employees. And when you ask them even something as simple as how do you schedule whatever, because we're scheduling for them, they don't, they have it like it's all up here. They have no documented system. So we have to help them kind of pull that out of their brain, because if we're going to be scheduling for them or doing whatever it is that they want us to do, we have to put together a system, because we can't just tell our crew, just wing it. So where these business owners have been winging it, kind of flying by the seat of their pants, maybe with their pants on fire for a while, and they've been successful doing it, but that doesn't scale.
Yeah, it
And now
does.
they're starting to grow a little bit, and then they're learning.
It doesn't. And
systematize.
I think like for me, it's also important if we're talking about like ideal customer persona. In the beginning, when I started my business, I was just willing to take on whoever's willing to pay me, right? Like, whoever wants to, like, I'm desperate. Sure. I want as many clients as possible. But then the more that I started to work with clients, I realized like, oh, hey, this is probably not an ideal client because they don't have their processes dialed in. Oh my gosh, this client has to file chapter 11. Okay, I don't want that type of client, no. So it just really taught me that what I'm looking for in an ideal client, it's not taking on any client that's willing to pay me. Because I've been there before. It's really taking on the right fit client. And the way that I view it is I want clients that are already winning, because I want to make them a bigger winner versus like taking a loser of a client and then trying to make them a winner. It's much harder to do that. So that's definitely been like my approach. And what I look for is typically clients that have been in business for at least 3 to 5 years, that have at least $500,000 in revenue, that have growing teams. So I have these clues when I'm like evaluating whether a client is going to be a good fit or not. But those are like the criterias that I tend to look at versus like, oh, whoever's willing to pay me, I'm willing to work with them.
That is impressive. I love that, working with winners rather than losers and trying to build them up to winners. That is incredible. I love that saying. I'm going to use that. That's impressive. That is impressive. When did you make that shift, moving from taking anybody that has money or is willing to pay you money to now we can be a little bit more strategic or a little bit pickier about who we work with?
So I actually started my business in 2020. So I left actually corporate America right before like the lockdown and the pandemic. So that's some time to really think about what I wanted to do. And for the first couple of months, I was just trying to get my feet wet. I had a lot of like insecurities and doubts about like starting my own business, and didn't really know that many people, like a lot of entrepreneurs in my life. So a lot of the people surrounding myself with were like, oh, you should go back to a 9 to 5. It's easier. Don't.
Whoa, did they really?
Business. Yeah. And I think it's just like the security thing and the 401k and the benefits and all that everyone's thinking about. But at the end of the day, it's like when you go and you work for like a big company, you're not really that secure. They can let you go too. Like just what we saw in the pandemic. But to answer your question, like when did I officially make that shift? So I was pretty much willing to take on any client probably for the first year. And then after I started realizing how much turnover and churn I was getting, I was like, oh man, this is so tiring. I feel like I'm running a marathon and I can't keep up with it. And I know that at the end of the day, running a business is like running a marathon too, but it's like, it's really, the churn was really tough on me, because I was willing to take on this client, and just like what I was saying, like this client went bankrupt, this client ghosted me, this client didn't pay their invoice. It's like, okay, no, I need to find winners, and I need to find people that I can trust, that are already like, growing, and that have systems in place. If they have systems in place and they're already winning, then I can just help them become a bigger winner. So I'd say that was probably probably a year into my business when I was getting really burnt out of just taking whoever on. And I was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. I just I need the stability, right? Because I'm thinking too, like in terms of like business, I need that recurring revenue. I don't want to be doing one-off projects here and there. I don't want to be doing a bunch of custom work. It's way too draining. I need that recurring revenue. And how am I going to get that? besides just taking on any client, take on clients that already are doing really well, high ticket, where it's just like a no-brainer for them to work with me.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's kudos to you for learning that so quick. That took
Thanks.
me 7 years.
Oh my goodness.
Because you're just like, we're trying to figure out our model. I had a business partner before. She was cool, but we weren't as focused as we should be, I guess is what it comes down to. So it was just kind of like, hey, we're making money. It's cool.
Right.
And never realized that the headache, that it kind of comes down to the 80-20 rule, right? 80% of your clients are going to be 20, or how does that go? 20% of your clients are going to bring in 80% of your revenue.
Right.
And I suppose you go on there as well. There's probably 20% of your clients are more of a headache than they're worth. So
Right.
it's just,
oh yeah. No, I've actually been taught too. Like I had a coach earlier when I started my business, and she actually recommended to drop clients like every quarter, like pretty much
routinely.
create like a spreadsheet and pretty much, like write down all your clients, and then like pretty much do like a red light, yellow light, green light of like green is I love working with them, yellow is meh, I don't really care, and red is like I really don't like them. Maybe I should consider cutting them out. So it was something that I didn't actually, well, did I? I think I did actually move forward with it one quarter. But then after that, I didn't have any clients after that I really felt strongly about, getting rid of, because at the end of the day, it's like with one client, if it's really draining you so much, you can be putting that effort into another client that's not going to be painful, that could even be producing you even more revenue. So it's like, it's just one of those things where, and I know too that there's a lot of strategic coaches that teach this type of approach, where it's like, then you should start cutting, especially if you have people grandfathered in at like your lowest rates. You either need to raise your rate or just cut them entirely. Yeah,
totally fair. Yeah, it's interesting how you talk to people that started their own businesses, entrepreneurs of the world, and they say that they started it for freedom and all that kind of stuff, which is totally cool. Can understand it, all that jazz. But then they end up building their own prison, kind of locking themselves in with these people that they don't like talking to, they don't like working with. They annoy them. They're losing sleep over this stuff. And it's like, no.
I've been there.
Yeah, you're close to exactly what you want, but you got to cut the cancer out sometimes, whether that's employees or clients or what have you, the headaches of the world in your business that you don't necessarily have to deal with them, or you just deal with them the one time, get rid of them.
Exactly. No, I try to be very careful too. Like when I vet clients, but sometimes you don't know how they're going to be until you start working with them.
Totally true.
And
totally true.
Yeah. And then when you start working with them, they're already kind of like, you start getting some clues. And then maybe after the first month, you're like, okay, like this is not a good fit of a client. And then a part of it's like, okay, well, how am I going to have this conversation about like cutting ties with them? Or maybe let's give them another month to really see, are they just like this because it's the beginning, or are they just going to be like this? And actually earlier this year, I had a specific client where I had this issue where it's like, okay, maybe after the first 2 weeks, I already kind of had this gut feeling that I didn't think that it was going to be a good fit. And then after the first month, I was like, I don't think this is a good fit. We need to cut ties.
All right.
Because no matter what, even though it's bringing me revenue, it's just not a good feeling every time he calls me, every time he emails me. It just feels like demanding, and it doesn't feel like a partner relationship. That's how I try to feel with my clients. It's like, I want to feel like I'm a partner with you, your marketing partner. I don't want to feel like your slave, or, just like your hourly worker or something.
Right.
Like, I want you to value what I bring. I don't want you to then tell me what to do. Because if it's a relationship where the client's telling you what to do, then what's the point of even paying a expert if you're going to tell them what to do? And that's really frustrating. I can't work like that.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, when I hire my SEO people or my marketing people, I guess broadly, they know what I want. We have a conversation, then you just get out of their way.
Yeah,
Those
are my favorite clients. those are my favorite clients. And then once or twice a month, we'll check in and I'll be very transparent about, what happened this month. Here's the performance. This is because accountability to me is really important. That's a number one thing that I think is lacking, besides like the integrity too, with like freelancers and agencies, is accountability. They sign you up and then they just leave, or they don't like show that they even care. And if you can't even show your clients that you care, why should they continue paying you for your services? Like, you need to show them that you care, that you're forward thinking, that you're thinking about what's going to happen 30, 60, 90 days from now, not just, oh, this is the work I did. I added a few keywords. I adjusted your bids. Okay. Like, that's what I would expect from an hourly employee, not an expert. I'm really looking forward to you to paint the vision for me for our future together. And that's what my approach is when I work with clients. I really try to paint a roadmap of, this is what you can expect when you're working with me for at least 90 days. And every 90 days, we do a refresh of what they could potentially expect, given their budget, given the strategy, and all of that.
Yeah, I love you saying that about the hourly versus the outsourced. Because I tell my crew that, I said, imagine that you made dinner and you ate it and it was okay. And then you go to a restaurant and you order that same meal and it's okay. How do you feel? Like, when you make it, you're like, whatever, it's food. But when you go to a restaurant, you're like, oh my gosh, we're never coming here again. I hate this. Because you essentially outsourced it. So it has to be better than what you can offer, that someone that you can pay can offer.
Expectations too.
Yeah, totally. Totally true.
Yeah, because you're expecting that chef to know what they're doing. You're expecting that chef to know what spices, how to like cook the meat, and how to put all the different ingredients together to make a great meal. But unfortunately, a lot of these agencies and freelancers, they end up serving you like McDonald's.
Yeah, right. Here's the same trash, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's funny. So Michelle, when you started your business a few years ago, you got it going, you're working with some cool clients. What do you see for the next, let's say, over the course of the next 3 years for the business?
Over the course of the next 3 years, I'm actually going to be launching a course on LinkedIn Learning. So that's actually should be coming out within the next year. It's all recorded. We're in production like right now. So we're really excited. That should be coming out. I think like in terms of like where I see the business going, I have a YouTube channel that I just started this year.
Nice.
My goal is to get that really ramped up. I think right now we're getting close to like 500 subscribers. So it's been like a good 6 months, and probably maybe created like about 50 videos so far. Would love to grow that, would love to monetize that and become like, an influencer in my pay-per-click industry space. And in terms of like where I see myself potentially going, potentially having more employees, having more clients, so I could scale the company, and then maybe even do some educational stuff, because as I'm already producing a LinkedIn course, maybe even create some type of membership. I know that those are really popular right now, but creating some type of membership where I can be training people, because as I'm doing this YouTube thing, I'm seeing that there's a lot of people that still need like, basic like help without even managing their account, but it's like, oh, teach me Google Ads. So I think that it could be a potential offering for the future. Nice.
Very cool. So since you started your business, what are some challenges that you run into that you didn't necessarily expect?
Wow, I think that the biggest challenge is finding clients.
All right.
Yeah, I would say that like that was my number one fear, and the number one thing like holding me back in terms of even starting the business. So it was the confidence. It was a confidence thing. When it came to like finding clients, thinking like, oh, well, who would pay me to like help them with their business? And that was something that held me back for maybe a good 2 to 3 years. I've been thinking about starting a business for a while, but the pandemic actually pushed me into that because there were no jobs. No one was hiring during that time. So I was like, all right, like, let's just go all in and see if nothing happens within the next 3 months, like since the start of the pandemic, I can always go back to a 9 to 5, no big deal. And at least like I gave this time to like learn, but I'd say, yeah, the biggest challenge really came down to like, how do I find clients? So I just went on Reddit. There's actually Reddit's amazing, by the way. It's a really great place to find like little communities. And I found this community called RPPC, stands for Our Pay Per Click. That's where a lot of the people in my industry hang out. So they'll like be asking questions and, like giving each other's tips and stuff like that. So like I found my community online. I started contributing, and that's where I met some people and started having lots of Zoom coffee chats. I'd say like 2020 was the year of lots of Zoom and tea coffee chats, like meeting tons of people. And just like picking like different agency owner brains on like, oh, how did you go about finding clients? What did you do? And honestly, like the answers I was getting wasn't really helpful. Oh, referrals. Oh, yeah. So it's like, okay, well, like that's easy because you've already been in business for so long. And if you do good work, you will get referrals. But for me, it's like, how can you teach someone to get referrals if they don't? It's like the chicken and the egg situation, right? You need to have your first client before you can even get referrals. So that was my challenge. And for a really long time, well, actually for a while, I was like looking at all my different options. Potentially, could I be posting on this Reddit and see like, is there someone that could be looking for my help? Looking at places like Upwork. And believe it or not, my first official paid client came from Craigslist. I'm not kidding you. I am not kidding you. And he's still with me till this day.
Oh, that's cool.
3 years.
All right.
3 years. Yeah.
Well, he must be happy then.
Oh, he's happy. He's really happy. Yeah. So things are going really strong. But yeah, so I tried Craigslist and I was like, I don't know, like, Craigslist, it seems to be a little bit of like a weird, like place to find, a gig or some, business, but it turned out that he's only like a few miles away.
Oh, funny.
So it was like really local. And yeah, it was just kind of funny how that happened. It was my only client that ever came from Craigslist, but yeah, it just goes to show that like sometimes it can just come from random places.
All right. Fair. That's all right. So for one of the things that I run into with small businesses is that they don't either budget enough or they don't even know where to start from a budget standpoint. So, and I found, I guess from my experience with advertising, depending upon the channel or the medium, there's a minimum spend to have any effect at all. So if I went out and said, hey, I want to place a billboard, I'm going to have one billboard in the middle of a lone highway for 1 month, and I'm expecting it to just turn my business around, that's probably not realistic. So is there a minimum spend that you would recommend for just broadly speaking, any given client?
That's a really great question. So typically what happens is when I get a client that's interested in advertising, I'll like get a feel for like what their propensity to spend is, right? And then, a lot of times they don't have no idea. It's like, right. I want to do it. I just don't know how much. The challenge then is like, for me to have like a number across every single industry, it's really hard because there's some industries that are super expensive. Let's say, for instance, legal. In Los Angeles, the keyword personal injury attorney Los Angeles can cost as high as $1,000 a click.
Whoa, really?
Yes.
Oh, I was getting excited about $50.
Oh no.
Wow.
Oh no, maybe $50 is probably like 20 years ago, but no, we're looking at $1,000 a click.
A click. So even if it's an accidental click or something.
Yeah, it's a click. So it's very expensive. So that's why it's like, and then there's some industries that you can get away with. Maybe, there's some industries that you can get away with where it's not that competitive. You can get away with like $1 a click or $2 a click. I have a client that does waxing and tanning, and maybe it's like $2 to $3 a click. But he's in a really small town. It's not competitive and so forth, but it really varies per industry. But what I will say, if you cannot spend at least $2,000 a month, don't even think about doing advertising on Google, at least. So if you can't even stomach that, then it's not even worth your time. Gotcha. But if you're in an industry where like your customer lifetime value, for instance, like when you're doing personal injury, like law, and it's like potentially a wrongful death case or something where you could be making millions, then dropping 1,000, a couple, well, maybe it won't be dropping 1,000. You're gonna be dropping a couple, like maybe even like 10 to 20K a day or something like that in order to like even get one.
All right.
But yeah, it really just depends on the industry. I will say that like the legal industry is the most competitive of all industries.
All right.
Talking about Google Ads.
Interesting. Yeah, I had a window company and their leads or clicks, whatever. I want to say there were 100, couple hundred, something like that. It was more than we were willing to stick in.
Yeah.
Because the niche that we were after was kind of eh.
Yeah, exactly. So you really have to think about, like, again, the margins, right? Like, how big is the customer lifetime value? What are the margins? And like, does it even make sense? Like, there's so many great industries that work well with pay-per-click. I'm talking locksmiths. I'm talking like window companies too, carpet cleaning. Like when you have like services like that where it's like recurring revenue, that's great. Or if you just have a really high ticket service like attorney services, or even like accounting services too, pay-per-click advertising could be a really great avenue. I'd say definitely professional services and a lot of like local service-based businesses are a really good place for Google Ads, pay-per-click advertising.
Gotcha. You raised an interesting point. I was expecting some broad number, but I guess in the end, it really depends where you are and what you're doing.
Exactly.
Who else is doing it?
Exactly.
All right.
So that's why I just gave you a baseline. And, you know, if I'm talking to someone and I can already sense like that they're probably not going to be an ideal client, I just tell them up front, like, hey, it's going to be at least $2,000. That's not even my fee. That's just the fee just to even be somewhat competitive in a small, tight radius in your area. So we can do like a 1 to 2 mile radius and then drop the $2,000 in there and see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, like if you can't even stomach that, then let's just not even waste each other's time and get back to me when you're ready.
That's fair. That is totally fair. Well, Michelle, I appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
If I just have one more question, if you had a bit of advice for someone that was looking to just hire an SEO expert, what is that one bit of advice that you would want to share with them?
Check their reputation.
Oh, okay. And how do you do that? How do you do that?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to go about doing that. So number one, ask for references. So if they don't, so here's the thing. Sometimes you can like go online and find like Google reviews or Yelp reviews, but if they're newer, you can't really like blame them for being newer. It's like the chicken and the egg situation that we were talking about. So another thing is like checking their references, looking at their LinkedIn profiles, and then also looking at, do they have a portfolio of work to show you? Just like if you were hiring like a graphic designer or, you know, like a web designer or something, like, do they have proven work that they can show you, or are they just all talk saying like, oh, I can get you like 1,000 leads a day? So do they, and of course, even with the portfolio, someone can lie about stuff. So I think it's important, like if they have a portfolio, like dig through it, and actually, you know, say, hey, could I check with this client to make sure that, you know, this is, you know, really what you did. And a lot of times I'm like, oh no, like this client, like we have like an NDA, I can't share with you. But then, you know, if they're a really good, you know, an honest person, they'll have, you know, they'll be able to provide references and case studies and show you real results. I think the key thing too is like, if they've already worked in your industry and they can show proven results, that's already a big win.
Right.
If they haven't worked in your industry, then it's not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's something that you will have to expect that if it doesn't excel or doesn't succeed, then that's could be, you know, one of the reasons why.
Fair. Totally fair. I love it. Michelle, thank you so much for being on the show. Can you tell us how people can find you?
Yeah, you can go ahead and find me on LinkedIn. Just go ahead and type in my name, Michelle, and my last name is spelled K-O-P. You can also find my YouTube channel that I launched just a few months ago. Just go ahead and type in Level 28 Media, and you'll be able to find it. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much.
Sweet. I love it. This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. We're locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. If you're listening or watching this on the web, if you could do us a huge favor, hit the big old subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and of course, share it with all your entrepreneurial friends, especially those that could use a little bit of SEO marketing help from Michelle or anyone else in the industry. Oh, what do we got here? My name is James Cademan, and Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering and receptionist services for service businesses across the country, as well as the Bold Business Book, a book for the entrepreneur in all of us, available wherever fine books are sold. I'd like to thank you, our listeners, as well as our guest, Michelle Kop, the founder of Level 28 Media. And Michelle, can you tell us that YouTube channel one more time?
Yes, you can go ahead and just type in at Level 28 Media.
At Level 28 Media. I love it. Past episodes can be found morning, noon, and night. Podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. Thank you for listening. We will see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.